So remember how Gurman said the iPad 11 will get the A17? Well, as per usual in the world of leaks, we have a new leak going against him and claiming the iPad 11 may have weaker internals than expected. But let me explain how this might be bad news and also good news at the same time. Essentially, according to a private account on Twitter who has been reliable in the past, they have spotted the iPad 11 in iOS codes with the chip identifier T8120, which is the identifier for the A16, which obviously we know does not run Apple Intelligence. The A16 never came with 8 gigs of RAM, which is the minimum spec needed for Apple Intelligence, and so some of you guys might be worried the iPad is going to miss out on the power of AI. You don't care about AI? Well, Apple's gonna shove it in your face anyway. So yeah, it would be weird if this iPad does not support it, but I think there's a possibility Apple splits the base iPad into two models. In one of Gurman's older reports, he mentioned entry-level iPads in plural, with him then giving us two different code names, which are J481 and J482. Now, what does this mean? Well, the most likely possibility is that this is just the Wi-Fi and cellular version, but usually there would not be two separate code names for such minute differences. But Gurman also fails to explain what this could actually mean, and so I started speculating that maybe there's two different iPad 11 models, one with Apple Intelligence support and one without. And so I reckon the $349 iPad 10 is going to be replaced by an A16 iPad 11, one that does not run Apple Intelligence but will still be a decent spec upgrade over the A14 in the iPad 10. Then maybe for $399 or $429, we get an A17 Pro version of the iPad 11 that has 8 gigs of RAM compared to 6, and also most importantly runs Apple Intelligence. Yes, it would still be weird, the more expensive iPad mini does not have a much superior chipset, but maybe the mini gets an update to the A18 later in the year, but at the very least guys, there wouldn't be a huge price difference anymore. And let's be honest guys, Apple would not be offering the power of the A18 or even the A17 for just $349. That seems too good to be true. I think similar to what they did with the AirPods 4, where there's a non-ANC and ANC version, we will get two different versions of the iPad 11. And remember when the iPad 10 launched, the iPad 9 had stuck around for $329. And so this would not be the first time they split the base iPad into two different models. I know it's weird, but we all know that Apple cares a lot about AI, and so they can technically say the whole range supports AI, but also they care about profit margins, and they want a model targeting that $349 price point. Though eventually the higher end model with the A17 or the A18 will come down to $349, just like the iPad 10 came down from $449 to $349. Now you may be asking, is that literally the only thing that sets us apart from the iPad 10? Well, yes, for the most part, but based on what we've seen with the recent iPad releases, we can expect a few other smaller changes. The first thing will be connectivity improvements. I can definitely see them giving this Wi-Fi 6E, even though most don't have Wi-Fi 6E routers, to actually take advantage of the better speeds. But hey, it will future-proof this iPad, and we should also get Bluetooth 5.3 support. The next thing I'm sort of curious about is Apple Pencil Pro support. You see, when the iPad 10 originally released, Apple kind of led us to believe this could not support Apple Pencil 2 because there was a landscape camera where the charging strip was, and so they gave us Apple Pencil 1 support with the horrible dongle methods. That dongle still gives me nightmares, but thankfully they then went back to the drawing boards and gave us the much better USB-C pencil. Now though, with the new iPads, Apple has restructured the magnetic strip so that of course you get wireless charging whilst also getting the landscape camera. And so whilst I'm not 100% sure about this, I think there is a possibility we could see Apple Pencil Pro support on the iPad 11. Yes, it's completely overkill having this pencil on an iPad that does not have things like P3 support, or even the glass and the actual display being laminated, but I think just for some continuity in the range, it would be nice if all iPads supported all the same pencils. Remember, you won't be forced to buy the Apple Pencil Pro just like other iPads. You can settle for the USB-C one if you don't need some of the fancier features, but considering the USB-C model lacks things like pressure sensitivity that even the first gen pencil supports, it would be nice to offer something more feature-packed for those who want it on the iPad 11. You can also argue it doesn't make sense for a non-Pro iPad to have a Pro Pencil, but remember the iPad Air Mini do support this pencil already. So yeah, Apple does not give a damn about their naming scheme making any sense. The iPad Air is thicker than the iPad Pro, so yeah, just bring Apple Pencil Pro to all non-Pro iPads. We should not need a compare page for iPad pencils. all iPads should just support the same pencils. Finally, I can also see them updating the colors. At the end of the day, I think that's what most consumers are going to care about anyway. Here's hoping we see an orange or green this time around to get all the Apple sheep way too excited about a design that originated from 2018, and that includes me, by the way. I do, however, expect the Magic Keyboard Folio to come down in price, considering it makes no sense that's only $100 cheaper than the actual iPads, and so that should be revised to $149 or $199. The Gurman does give us some pretty interesting Magic Keyboard related rumors. So apparently Apple suppliers are developing a new keyboard for the iPads that's scheduled to launch by the middle of 2025. And what's interesting is that this is going to be designed for both the iPad and iPad Air. It's going to lack an aluminium top case like the new Magic Keyboard for the M4 iPad Pros, but it may feature a function row. Now that makes me think Apple's going to simplify the keyboard range and use the same keyboard with both the iPad and iPad Air, which would be a great move because it's currently weird the Folio has a function row, but the regular Magic Keyboard for the iPad Air doesn't. And frankly, because the iPad Air and the iPad 10 do share the same dimensions, they should just share the same keyboards. Release-wise, all we know for now is that this iPad's launching during the spring. Mr. Gurman is being vague as per usual and simply says we should see it by April. And whilst it's annoying he doesn't give us an actual time frame, what he does say does make sense. Yes, there have been rare occasions where we have got new hardware earlier. For example, M2 MacBook Pros launched in Jan, and we got the new HomePod in February. But generally Apple sticks to launching new products in the spring, and so March or April timeframe for this iPad does make sense. Now, are we going to see an event or could it be a press release? Right now, unsure, but considering Apple does have the iPhone SE, the iPad Air, AirTag 2, and this new iPad to launch, I think that's enough products for a spring event, though because this is such a minor refresh, Apple could also easily do a site refresh. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching. We have heard a lot about the iPhone SE4 and the upgrades we can expect, but there's one crucial aspect we don't have much information about, and that's pricing. Till now, of course, because Mr. Gurman spills the beans and we have both good and bad news. So the good news is that the iPhone SE4 won't be outrageously expensive. Gurman says they're targeting a price range between $400 and $500, which is what the current SE3 sits at, but if you're wondering what the bad news is, because Gurman is being so vague about the price, I think that does suggest the price tag is going to be closer to $500, or maybe even $499. Now honestly, yes, that is a price increase, but that's not too bad considering the SE3's $439, and so for $60 more you're getting OLEDs, a new design, a better camera and better performance. Also, this will still be cheaper than the outgoing iPhone 14 that it's replacing at $599, so honestly this is not too shabby guys, I'll take this pricing gladly. Now let's move on to the front of the SE4, because there's been conflicting rumours on whether the SE4 is going to have a notch or dynamic island, but thankfully display analyst Ross Young chimes in and tells us we should see, breaking news, a notch. And well, I saw this coming guys.